or the back seat of the Jeep Compass, and it has a tape measure in it, and it's documenting the inside width of the vehicle.
Okay. And what was the inside width at shoulder height of the vehicle?
51 inches.
Why do you measure and document? Did you do the angles of impact on each of those?
Yes.
Okay. So after the measurements in terms of the seats as well, okay. And what was that distance determined to be?
39 inches.
And what are you showing in this photo?
That would be the other end of the tape measure.
So I want to go here on the ceiling, S1 with the arrow pointed to a cutout. Was that also related to a patent or a footwear impression?
Yes, so that cutout, prior to that cutout in the headliner, there was a footwear impression on the headliner.
Okay, in terms of this measurement here, what are you showing the distance from?
Showing the distance from the from the driver's side rear passenger seat back to the passenger front seat front of the
Is that the headrest?
headrest, yeah.
Okay. And then do you determine that measurement as well to the bottom of the seat?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that measurement?
39 inches.
And on the previous measurement, it was a similar?
39 inches.
So in terms of going forward in the reconstruction process, once you have put in all the trajectory rods and gotten the angles, what's the next step that you need to do?
From here, I continued my analysis of the vehicle. Because of the fact that I found the two projectiles, I wanted to ensure that anything else relevant to the investigation was collected, so I examined the vehicle further.
Okay, so in a showing defense counsel what's been marked as states quadruple E for identification purposes only. Do you recognize the exhibits in states quadruple E?
I do.
And how do you recognize those?
That is my handwriting and my name on it.
Scissors would be fine.
They are.
At this time, the state would request to move state quadruple E in as 78.
Any objection?
No.
It'll be admitted.
States quadruple E will be marked states number 78.
So you mentioned that you did some additional searching on the car once you realized that there was other projectiles in there. Did you
Correct.
find any other items of evidentiary value?
I did.
And what would that be?
I observed what appeared to be blowback on the headliner of the vehicle.
And so if you could explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, where is the headliner on the vehicle?
It is above your head as you're seating in the car. It actually just is there for cosmetic purposes, so you don't see your roof.
So showing defense counsel what's been previously identified as stage triple T. Sergeant, do you recognize state what's been marked for identification as states triple T?
I do.
How do you recognize that item?
This is my handwriting, my name. It is sealed with red evidence tape with my initials and ID.
And what is that item?
This would be the headliner with the blowback on it that I cut out.
And do you recall on what date you cut that out?
That was cut out on December, may I just look over
Or does it
the
reflect on the packaging? in
Oh
any
yes, 12/17 of 21.
And is that in the same or substantially same condition as when you recovered it?
Mayor,
Please. Gloves there if you need them.
yes it is, minus the testing that I did, a cutting, and a cutting that the lab did.
Here at this time, the state would request to move states triple T in as state 79.
Any objection?
No, sir.
It will be admitted.
And Detective, if you'd be so kind, I'm going to ask you to publish this particular item to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Stage triple T has been marked stage 79.
You may.
And Detective, if you could hold it up and show the back of it as well, and then indicate which part went to the front of the vehicle.
Do you have the picture of the headliner?
Sure. Oh, sorry. Would this photo help in assisting you in the location?
And I object to the leading nature of
Will this assist you? Call the roll.
Yes.
Oh.
It would be so if the vehicle is facing this way, it would be this way.
Okay, and just show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the back of it so that it understands. Okay. And in terms of what are you looking at on that piece of headliner? What does it show?
So it shows blood, and it also shows the directionality of the blood.
Okay. And if you could show on the picture that's in front of you on the screen what your area of the car you're talking about.
Is it okay to put this away?
Please, yes.
John, maybe put that back on the
Sure.
Almost as if he was sleeping, so it was down, leaning on the right, at an angle. So his head was at an angle as he was seated in that front seat.
Would a demonstrative of the head help illustrate that point?
Sure.
Okay. Now showing, was previously shown to defense counsel and used as a witness yesterday labeled as BMEO 18-3118 by Dr. McDougall.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, the witness will be using a demonstrative to assist in explaining or illustrating his testimony. Just remember that the testimony of the witness is the evidence. These demonstrative aids are not to be considered as evidence unless they're later received in evidence. Only items of evidence go back with you during deliberations for your further examination.
So Sergeant Williams, Dr. McDougall indicated on that particular head the entrance and exit wound on that. Is that consistent with your review of the autopsy photographs and Francine photographs?
And then continuing in this seat, you have the projectile coming in, exiting through the top of the skull, and then continuing through the windshield.
You said the shot, and we were just talking about in CSW 6745. Does this attempt to accurately recreate the potential location of that firearm?
So the purpose of this photograph, I don't believe the Miramar Police Department had that opportunity. These individuals were brought right into the hospital, so that opportunity was lost.
Okay. In terms of the firearm itself, were you ever presented with a firearm that was said to you to be the one used in this case?
No.
So, we talked about the back spatter. On the medical examiner's report, did you review the medical examiner's report for the backseat passenger, Christopher Thomas?
I did.
Who was it that noticed a mislabeled entrance and exit wound?
I noticed that.
And what did you do when you realized that there was an issue or concern with the report?
I notified you that there was an issue, that a defect in Mr. Thomas was labeled twice.
Okay. And so what, after that was done, did you look through the photos from the hospital?
I did, because I observed that Mr. Thomas had a defect on his right quadricep area, the upper part of his leg. That came from the door, and it entered into the seat. And when I was looking at the autopsy photos of Mr. Thomas, I would expect to find an exit wound from the medical examiner's office, and they did not have a picture to produce that, and it wasn't annotated in their report. So again, I notified you of this discrepancy as well.
And in terms of, were you able to figure out and determine which projectile caused that specific injury based on your reconstruction?
I was.
So we talked a little bit about the shots to Anthony Williams. I'm going to move on and talk to any of the injuries to Christopher Thomas. What did you look at in review in trying to establish a shooting reconstruction of the injuries to Mr. Thomas?